Games: A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, a title that I think is stupid, but
Too long.
it's too long. It's too long, and it doesn't make me want to watch the film. Let me put it that way. But go ahead, tell me about this.
Yeah, this is the as it says, it's a Hunger Games film, but this is actually set 50 years before the Hunger Games films that we know. And this is going back to the adolescence and sort of young manhood of Coriolanus Snow, who
Mm,
becomes President Snow in this, and he's like the big bad almost in the Hunger Games universe as we know it from when
yes.
we see Katniss and all the others frolicking about. And so this basically is 10 years after the war, which set all the different districts apart away from each other, the central point, and they still have the Hunger Games, which were invented basically to punish the districts because
Yes.
and this goes back to how basically where did the idea of the Hunger Games come from?
Yeah.
And in this 10th anniversary year, Coriolanus Snow, he's in his last year, impoverished by the war, and in order to earn a prize, he wants to win this prize. And this year, for the first time, they're trying to do something with the Hunger Games because people are not watching them. People don't approve of them. They think it's barbaric and it's brutal, and they can't see the point of it to keep punishing the districts. And so, to the games maker has decided that to make it a bit more interesting, each of the Hunger Games candidates, the tributes as they're called, is going to have a mentor. And for the
Okay.
first time, they're going to have mentors and they're going to choose the one whose candidate wins the Hunger Games, they win this monetary prize. So Coriolanus Snow has invested that, yeah, he needs his money because his family gives the appearance of wealth. They still live in their house, they still try to wear the clothes, but they actually are struggling to eat. They're struggling to keep themselves warm. They are completely impoverished. And in comes a situation where the Hunger Games start and they introduce the new tributes from the different districts. And Coriolanus Snow is given this young tribute, this young girl from District 12. Yeah. Her name is Lucy Gray Baird, and she is a Covey, which is basically she's not technically part of the district. She's part of this group that we think Covey is like a derivative of Carney, where they're
Okay.
like carnival people. They are performers, they're musicians, they're actors, and they sort of move from place to place. But since the war, they've been confined into District 12.
Yeah.
And so when she is called up, her name is called out. She her her chums who she lives with start singing, and so she sings back because she's like a singer, and
Yeah.
so instantly she becomes more noticeable because she stands out from all the other tributes
Okay.
as a
So
singer.
she's the songbird then.
She's a songbird, but she also because she is sort of lives outside of the town, she lives a bit more native. She actually has affinity with snakes, and the
Okay.
first time you see her, when she is called up to go up to be called up, her name is called out. She drops a snake down the back of this girl in the audience, and you instantly think, "There's what's all that about?" And it turns out that she's the daughter of the mayor, and she's been going out with Lucy Gray's ex-boyfriend, and so they think that she was set up to go into Hunger Games by this girl saying, "No, look, please, Daddy, get rid of her."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So she drops a snake down her back. So you've got the snakes and you've got the songbird. And then it basically goes into the Hunger Games territory. You have the games, and you have Coriolanus Snow trying to sort of help her through it.
Yeah.
But like the book, it's structured in three parts. So it's like three sections. There's the first section is about the games. Or was that the first or second section? Anyway, there's into three sections, and you see three different parts of his life and how the events of the Hunger Games and then what happens after the Hunger Games, how it shapes the man he becomes. Because
Mm.
you sort of so at the beginning you're not quite sure. We know he turns into this sort of quite hardened, um, well, he's just hardened man. He
Yeah.
wasn't a villain as such, but he's like there's no soft edges to him, there's no compassion to him, and you learn through the process of the film, you learn how he got that way, what turned him from being at the beginning sort of quite idealistic, quite sort of friendly. He's loving and he was kind and he was willing to sort of love freely.
Yeah.
um, and what changed that into this hardened man that he becomes. So you see, it's the story of the young Coriolanus Snow, who grew up to be Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so my big question is, does it work?
For me, it did actually. I
Okay.
wasn't expecting it to because I've been aware of the book because the book's been out for quite a while now. It's been out sort of I don't know 3 or 4 years, and I've always I didn't bother reading it. I thought, well, I know what happens to Coriolanus Snow. Why would I
Exactly.
invest? Why would I read
Exa-
500 pages about someone I know what happens to him? And so
exactly.
I
You know,
was not.
he's gonna end up being a bad guy. I mean, it's the
Yeah,
origin story
why?
of a bad guy. It's like,
Yeah. So you don't what's he got to show you? But I found it actually it made me go back and read the book. So I watched the film, and then normally I do. I normally I would read the book first, as you know.
yeah,
But I watched the film because I was thinking I wasn't that bothered. But then I
yeah.
watched it and I thought, actually, I think this is worth reading. So I did actually go back and I read the book afterwards. And it
Okay.
does give you some insight, and it is well written enough to want you to keep going. And I think the film is constructed in such a way that it does make you want to keep going. It helps if you understand the world in which they live in. It helps if you are like sympathetic to that sort of young adult romanticy type book, as it's called. Uh, so I quite liked it, and at its heart is like a love story. But then you sort of see everything seems to be going swimmingly, and you're thinking, well, we know how this ends. he is not. He is not living in
This
District
is
12.
this is not good. Yeah, this is not going to help. This is not going to end well for anybody. So it's like,
Yeah, but the way it handles it, it's and you see these sort of different aspects of his life, and he is, again, like we said, to compare and contrast with Napoleon. The thing about this guy is he is charismatic, and
yeah, yeah,
so you do root for him, and it's not because he's a good looking guy. They all cast a good looking guy for these sort of roles, don't they?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't
Tom
think
Blythe.
it would work. Yeah. So he is a good looking guy and he is sort of charismatic in here, but you do see there's an edge to him. You do see that there is that hardcore, that a child that has grown up in sort of deprivation and
Mm,
they've witnessed sort of like some appalling scenes during the war. But you know that they will leave a shadow over that young
yeah.
man's sort of psyche, and so you see that darkness there, and you see how that darkness could have been sort of brightened by the right influences, but it could also be hardened into the man we became. So you see that moment between when someone who had potential to become a good man, a good leader, someone who could have been, the salvation of the capital, how some sort of dark deeds, as it were, can sort of harden that sort of that iron core into inflexibility and
Mm,
to make them what they become. So I thought it was interesting as you saw as an origin story that it shapes the man who we see later.
all
So
right.
no, I thought it was well done.
How many stars did you give it?
I It's almost like I want to give it 2 stars. I want to give it a star of 2 star ratings. A 1 star rating like for my perception, and then how I think it be received by the intended audience. So I
Okay.
think for the average person coming in cold, it's probably a solid 3. It's a good, entertaining film. It's
Yeah.
not too long, and it's enough in there to keep you going, even if you don't know much about the Hunger Games. It's
Yeah.
a good story. And if you are a Hunger Games fan, I think it is probably a 4 star film because it would revive that feeling of like, yes. Because I think sometimes when you have like 4 films, 3 books, 4 films, and they divide the last film into 2 parts,
I
your
really hate
your
that. I
your
really hate.
interest does flag a bit at the end. And I liked it, thinking I like these films. So even my interest is beginning to flag at this.
Yeah.
And then I think to me it certainly revived that, and I was thinking, yes, I think this fits well with those early films that were a bit more sort of like groundbreaking. So I think, yeah, as you're a fan, it'd be a 4 for Doddle.
And
If you're
and you
not
consider yourself a fan.
as a fan, yeah, I enjoyed the books, I enjoyed the films. I think but coming as someone who is coming cold, I think there's still enough in this film for you to enjoy, and I think it's a solid 3. But for the non Hunger Games, initiates that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's well, valid effort, Sharon. But I just keep going. But we know he's gonna be a bad guy. What?
Yeah. Well,
there's just there's not enough in there for me to actually want to watch this.
yeah, because that's why I haven't read the books until this last week, because I just thought, what is the point? What is the
Yeah,
point? And
there
wasn't enough in there.
there's a hefty load of what is the point with this with me
Yeah,
because
but no, I think for me it delivered. It was worth it. It
yeah
was worth
yeah
it.
all right, okay, cool, because for me I feel like even though they say, oh yeah, but look at this, he's different at the beginning of the film, and so I'm watching and going, so yeah, in my head, I feel like I know exactly what the beats are going to be to turn him from idealistic young thing to battle hardened evil despot. and it's and I feel like I know what the hit bits are. And as I said, I'm time poor nowadays. I want to watch something else. But then again, not everything is supposed to be made for me. And now